Hello, boys and girls. Today for math, we're going to use properties of multiplication to find a product when one factor is a multiple of 10. So we're going to go way back to September and October when we used to do different properties of multiplication, which I know you can all do. Okay, we even use them with addition and subtraction. So addition. So we're going to use them again with multiplication when we're multiplying a multiple of 10. And remember, a multiple of 10 is the number that you can skip count by 10 to get to. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, and we keep on going forever. Okay, so we are going to use these properties to help us multiply today. So last week we learned how to multiply by multiples of 10. So for this problem, it's 4 times 20, and we used an open number line. So you start at 0, and you need to make 4 jumps of 20. So 1, 2, 3, 4 jumps of 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, and you land on 80. We could skip count by 20s, 20, 40, 60, 80. You can also do this by multiplying the base fact. 4 times 2 equals 8, and add a 0, and we get 80. Okay? And the reason we're adding a 0, if you remember, is anytime you multiply by 10 or by a multiple of 10, however many zeros there are, you can add that to the base fact. Okay? Because anytime you multiply by 10, remember we were just adding the 0. That was our trick when we multiplied by 10. So we're going to start with the associative property, and we're going to multiply by 4 times 20 again. I want you to think of 20 as 2 times 10, right? Because 2 times 10 does equal 20. 2 times 1 equals 2, add the 0, 20. Okay, so 4 times 20. We're not going to do 4 times 20. We're going to do 4 times 2 times 10. Okay, we're going to do the same thing over here. We're not going to multiply by 20. We're going to do 4 times, keep the 4 times the same, and then 20 will turn into 2 times 10. Now, if you remember, when we have the associative property, associate means parentheses. Remember, when you associate yourself with people, you want to hug them. So you associate yourself with your family because you love them, you want to hug them, right? So we think of parentheses as hugs, okay? Associate, hugs. So we are going to add parentheses to these equations because we can't multiply 3 numbers, right? 4 times 2 times 10. How do we know which numbers to multiply first? Which factors to multiply first? So we can just group them. And the associative property says that it doesn't matter what order you're multiplying in, you still get the same number. So here we're grouping 4 and 2 times 10, and here we'll group 2 and 10. Okay, 4 times 2 is 8 times 10. We all know 8 times 1 is 8, add the 0 equals 80. Still get the same answer using the associative property. And here we're going to bring down the 4 times. Nothing happened to that. But 2 times 10 is 20, which is our original equation. And we know that 4 times 2 equals 8. Bring over the 0 is 80. So that's using the associative property. You can group them in any order and you'll still get the same product. Now the distributive property, when you're distributing something, you're spreading it out, okay? So we're going to take one of these numbers and we're going to spread it out. I don't like multiplying by 4s. I know a number that's a lot easier than multiplying by 4s. I'm going to take this 4. If you remember, we didn't really do it like this. The distributive property is the alien method. So the 4 changed into a 2 and a 2. So then you multiply them both by 20. So you do 2 times 20 plus, and then another 2 times 20. right? We took the 4, split it up into 2 and 2, and you multiply them both by the other factor. So 2 times 20. 2 times 20 is 40. Sorry, this is a little small. Plus another 2 times 20 is 40. What is 40 plus 40? It is 80. Now, if you look, we can check our answers. We've done it using this strategy. Base fact, add a 0. We got an 80. Open number line, we got 80. Associative property in 2 different ways. We got 80 and 80. And now the distributive property, we got an 80. We know our work is correct. We did it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different ways, and we got the same answer. All strategies work. All properties work. Okay, let's try it again. So it says use properties of multiplication to explain why 3 times 60 is equal to or is the same as 18 times 10. I'm going to rewrite this a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. So we have 3 times 60 is equal to 18 times 10. Okay, so we are going to use a strategy to prove that those are equal. Those are the same, right? So we knew before, I'm going to go back to this slide, we have the associative property and the distributive property. We can either take one of our factors and split them up and distribute, or we could take the associative property and break one of them apart. Think of it as a new way, okay? I'm going to think of this number, 60, as an easier number. I don't want to think of it as 60. I want to think of it as 60 is going to be 6 times 10 because we know 6 times 10 is 60, right? Oops. And we're not going to do anything to this 18 times 10. It's still going to stay 18 times 10. We're going to prove that these are the same. I'm going to use the associative property to group 3 and 6. What is 3 times 6? 3 times 6 is 18. We bring down the times 10, and there you have it. I use the associative property to prove that 3 times 60 is the same as 18 times 10. They will both equal the same exact thing because we were able to take 3 times 60 and change our factors around a little bit and get the same exact thing on both sides of our equation. Okay, so this is a little bit of what you're going to see in Pearson, okay, in your workbook or in online. So we're just filling in the numbers that we see. So you're going to either use the associative property or the distributive property to help you. So here I see that we're definitely using the associative property. We have switch my colors. We have 1, 2, 3 factors, right? And then in the associative property, we're multiplying 3 numbers in special order. So 6 times 60 turned into 6 times something times 10. We're not going to think of it as 60. We're going to think of it as 6 times 10. So all we're doing here, 6 stays the same, and the 60 was broken up into 6 times 10. Here, we're doing this same exact thing. 6 times 10, except we're grouping it in a new way. Okay, so here we were grouping 6 and 10. Here we're grouping 6 and 6. This is a typo. That shouldn't be there. Sorry. All right. Next one. 6 times 60 is equal to something times 10. Okay? We are going to make this easier. We're going to take this equation and we're just solving it. So 6 times 6 is 36. Right? It's our base fact. Times 10, which is equal to, 360. Okay? So that was using the associative property. Here, down here, we have something plus something. Okay? When we're adding we're using the distributive property. This doesn't have three factors like this one does. Factor, factor, factor. We're multiplying every time. Here we're adding. Okay, so what are we adding? Something plus something times 90. The 90 stayed the same, right? What did they change 4 into? We can change it into whatever we want. I'm going to change it into 2 and 2 because that's easy. 2 plus 2 times 90. So then we break it apart. 2 times 90, 2 times 90. The 4 got split apart, and the 90 stayed the same. Remember that strategy. Same thing. So now we just bring it down. What is 2 times 90? Well, 2 times 9 is 18. Add the 0. Same thing. We already solved it, so why do we have to solve it again? 180. What's 180 plus 180? If we don't know what 180 plus 180 is, you can easily write it down vertically. That's okay. Showing your work is always wonderful. 0 plus 0 is 0. 8 and 8 is 16. 1, 1, and 1. We have 3. Our answer is 360. So we solved 4 times 90 by using the distributive property and breaking one of the factors apart. And we got 360. Okay. So now what I want you to do is head into Pearson and try this out on your own.